You walk into a room and something shifts. You can't name it. You can't explain it. But within seconds, you already know who the people in that room will listen to and who they will quietly ignore. That invisible signal has a name, and it is far older than language, older than civilization, older than anything you would recognize as human society. It is called respect. And the real reason some people have it without asking, while others chase it their whole lives without ever catching it, has nothing to do with money, titles, or how loud you speak. The answer lives in your nervous system, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Start with something simple. Think of the last time someone walked into a space and the energy in that space changed, not because they announced themselves, not because they demanded attention. The room simply reorganized around them, the way iron filings reorganize around a magnet. That is not a metaphor. That is a documented biological event happening in every person in that room simultaneously. Neuroscientist Amy Cuddy spent years studying what she called presence, the quality that makes some people seem to take up more psychological space than their physical body actually occupies. Her research, published through Harvard Business School, found that this quality is not performed. It is perceived, and the perceiving happens faster than conscious thought. In 39 milliseconds, which is faster than a blink, other humans are already forming dominance and trust assessments about you based on cues you are not consciously sending and they are not consciously reading. 39 milliseconds. Before a single word is spoken, before a handshake, before eye contact is even established. This is not a quirk of modern social psychology. This is evolutionary infrastructure. Your ancestors, the ones who survived long enough to eventually produce you, lived in groups where social rank was not a matter of ego. It was a matter of life and death. If you could accurately and quickly identify who in your group was capable, calm under pressure, and worthy of deference, you increased your odds of survival. If you misjudged, the cost could be catastrophic. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the brains that got this right more often than they got it wrong passed on that ability to read status cues. You inherited that hardware. Everyone around you inherited that hardware. So here is the first uncomfortable truth. Respect is not something you can simply decide to have. It is something others decide you have, based on a cascade of signals most people have never examined. What are those signals? Primatologist Frans de Waal spent decades studying social hierarchies in chimpanzee colonies, our closest evolutionary relatives, sharing 98.7% of our DNA. What he found was that the animals that commanded the most deference from others were rarely the strongest or the most aggressive. The ones at the top of the social hierarchy were the ones most skilled at managing tension. The ones who could sit completely still while chaos unfolded around them. The ones who moved slower when everyone else moved faster. That slowness was not weakness. It was information. It said, "I do not feel threatened." And something in the nervous systems of every animal watching that display read it as authority. You do the same thing every day. When you are nervous, you rush. You fill silence. You over-explain. You seek signals of approval before you finish speaking. These are the biological tells of low perceived status. Not because you are weak, but because your nervous system is broadcasting urgency when the situation calls for stillness. The ones who command genuine respect, not fear, not compliance, respect, have learned, consciously or not, to interrupt that pattern. But there is a second signal that matters even more. And this one surprises people. Psychologist Dacher Keltner at the University of California, Berkeley, has spent his career studying what he calls the elevation emotion. That particular feeling you get when you witness someone doing something genuinely good. His research uncovered something unexpected about social status. The individuals who held the highest and most durable status in groups over time were not the ones who demanded the most. They were the ones who gave the most, not materially necessarily, but socially. They acknowledged others. They created the conditions for other people to feel seen. They were, in Keltner's framing, the people who made the social environment feel safer and richer simply by being in it. This pattern maps directly onto what anthropologists have found studying indigenous communities around the world. The most respected figures in these groups, the ones whose words carry weight, whose decisions get deferred to, are not the ones who hoarded resources or shouted the loudest. They are the ones who distributed, who remembered, who showed up consistently in ways that cost them something. The word respect itself encodes this. It comes from the Latin respectus, the act of looking back. To regard again, to give a second look to something or someone you might have passed over. Genuine respect is, at its root, a form of sustained attention, and the people who earn it most reliably are the people who offer it most freely. There is a painful irony buried here that is worth sitting with. Most people who feel they are not getting the respect they deserve have unconsciously narrowed their attention to themselves, to how they are being perceived, whether they are being taken seriously, what others think of their words. And that inward focus, that invisible contraction, is precisely what makes them less magnetic, not more. Researcher Brené Brown, in her work on vulnerability and human connection, found that the people most desperate to project competence and certainty, those most concerned with never appearing weak, were often the ones others trusted least. Because certainty, performed loudly, reads as fragility. It reads as someone who cannot afford to be wrong. And a person who cannot afford to be wrong is a person who will eventually mislead you to protect themselves. What reads as strength, consistently across cultures, is the willingness to not know. To say, I was wrong about that, without theatrical self-flagellation. To ask a question in a room full of people who are pretending they already understand. That requires a particular kind of courage, the courage to not perform. And here is where the evolutionary story and the modern story converge. The respect your nervous system is built to grant goes to the person who seems least dependent on whether or not they receive it. This is not indifference. Indifference is cold, closed, unreadable. What commands respect is something closer to its opposite. Warmth combined with an absence of need for approval. The person who is genuinely glad to be in the room, genuinely interested in what you have to say, and genuinely unconcerned with whether you walk away impressed by them. That combination, warm but not eager, present but not needy, certain but not rigid, is what Frans de Waal's chimpanzees were doing when they sat still in the middle of chaos. It is what Dacher Keltner's high-status individuals were doing when they created safety in their groups. It is what Amy Cuddy's research was pointing to when she talked about presence not as something you perform, but as something you allow yourself to inhabit. You do not become respectable by trying harder to seem respectable. You become respectable by genuinely caring more about the quality of what you are doing and less about the impression it creates. That shift, from performance to substance, from impression management to actual attention, is one of the hardest things a social animal that evolved to care deeply about status can attempt. But it is possible, and the evidence from thousands of years of human social behavior is consistent. The people who make that shift stop chasing something they once desperately wanted and start finding it was already behind them everywhere they looked. You walked into that room at the beginning of this story and felt it, that shift, that invisible reorganization of attention. You have felt it 100 times. You already know what it feels like from the outside. You already know, on a level older than thought, exactly what it is you are sensing. The only question now is whether you are willing to stop performing it and start being it. Because the room has always been able to tell the difference. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss future content. I'd also love to hear your thoughts. Share your opinions, experiences, or questions in the comments below. Your feedback helps shape future videos and creates meaningful discussions for everyone in our community. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Your support truly makes a difference.